I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. I feel really sorry for our sisters to the south, 'cause they come up here every other year and get punched in the mouth. Oh, and every home Saturday, it gives us the chills to watch those boys in orange run together down that hill. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh, somewhere up in heaven, Gaines Adams makes a sack, and that old Banks McFadden is the best damn running back. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Everybody, damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Thursday to everybody. The official start of another football week, both college and NFL, begins today. There's two games tonight. You see one of them there in the title. The Eagles at the Giants, two struggling teams that really need a win, and that's a division game for those two. I will be tuning in for that for sure with the Sports Fury guys, or at least Sean, like I always do. And I'm looking forward to that. I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about some of the games this weekend, and I also want to talk about the AP Top 10. I know I don't have any use for the AP poll. I do, however, get a lot of questions about my opinions on the AP poll. And, of course, we're only a couple of weeks away from the real poll. The only poll that really matters is coming out. And, of course, that is the College Football Playoff Committee poll. And how will that compare to the AP poll? I think it will be very similar in a lot of ways, but there's probably a few teams in there that are going to be drastically different than what the AP says. I also would like to get some of your opinions on some upsets this week. We see it every single week in college football. Who will be the one, or ones, plural, that get upset this week? I'll give you my opinions on that as well. I'm not feeling great today, guys. I'm not going to lie. But I'm going to get through this. We can do this together, I promise. Let's see who's in the chat here. Nick Bro, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Clemson Carson says, yo, Jamie McCaslin, sup Pete, Uncle Luke. Not to be confused with Uncle Lou. I have to pronounce the hard K there. Otherwise, I sound like I'm saying somebody else's name. Yes, he said, I like the stream. Yes, everybody, please like it. If you're watching, there's no reason not to like it, right? Very easy. Just push the like button. Also share it and comment and watch it. That's very important as well. I always forget to tell you to watch it. Watching is probably the most important thing. But yes, like it. Uncle Luke says he's also getting rain still from Tropical Storm Michael. Yeah, I'll get in that in a second. Yes, sir. Is there anybody that's on here who's being affected by the storm? So we didn't really get anything where I live. I mean, I know Tallahassee, the Florida Panhandle, and everything west of that, I guess parts of Alabama, and of course Georgia really got the worst of it. By the time it got through here, we got a little bit of rain, maybe some gusty winds. I was driving around today, saw some tree limbs down and stuff like that, but nothing major. So we escaped it here, and I hope that anybody in the Tallahassee area, Florida Panhandle area, Alabama, Georgia area, if you're here, and I hope you're doing okay. It's very easy to watch this stream. Well, thank you. Clemson Carson says, I hope the playoff committee gives us credit for a win against North Carolina State if we beat them. Well, they will, because North Carolina State's undefeated and they are a top 20 team. We'll get credit for wins against Texas A&M as well. They have 2 losses. They are ranked, but they have 2 losses. But their 2 losses are to obviously Clemson and Alabama. So I still feel that Texas A&M will end in the top 15 at the end of the year. I think they may drop one more game somewhere, but even if they do, I see them being a 9-3 SEC team, which would most likely put them in the top 15, especially since Auburn's already lost 2 games. They'll probably lose another game or 2. They're a massive disappointment this season. Yeah, so, I mean, there's still a couple weeks where things can get shaken up. There's a couple of games this weekend that could really shake up this top 5, the way the outlook for the top 5 is. And the most notable one would be if Georgia lost to LSU, that would knock them out of the top 4 most likely. Now, that doesn't mean that Georgia's out of the race by any stretch of the imagination. Now, like I said, they can still win the East and challenge for the SEC, which would, that's their goal. Right? I mean, the winner of the SEC is going to make the playoff. I think even if you have a 2-loss SEC champ, which probably isn't going to happen, but even if it did, they're still probably going to get in. But obviously Clemson can't lose this weekend or win. They're not playing. Alabama, I mean, let's be real here. There's no way they're losing to Missouri. I mean, that would be the upset of all upsets this weekend. That's not going to happen. I don't see Ohio State losing either. So, yeah, Auburn has no offense. What game will I be streaming Saturday? So I will be doing the LSU and Georgia game at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. We're really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a great game. There's a lot of people picking Georgia to lose that game. I still think that Georgia's going to win the game. But it is probably, well, not probably, it is the hardest, it is their toughest game so far, and the fact that it's in LSU, it makes it even harder. And with LSU coming off of a heartbreaking loss to Florida, I think they're going to be motivated to show that their 5-0 start was not a fluke. But at the end of the day, I still think Georgia's better. We'll see. I also saw an interesting stat today. So there's only one team in the top 10. Well, there's only one team in America right now that has a top 10 overall defense and a top 10 overall offense. And anybody want to guess who that team is? Not hard to figure out, especially if I'm the one delivering the message. Yes, the answer to that is Clemson. Clemson has a number 8 overall in the country in total offense and number 3 overall in total defense. Alabama, shockingly, was in the 20s on defense overall, which that has never happened during this run that Alabama's had since Saban's been there. Maybe the first year, I don't know, because they weren't very good the first year. Maybe the second year. But since then, since they've been going on these national title runs or being in the national title conversation every single year, Bama has always been a top 10 defense. And right now they're sitting at somewhere around 23 or 24. That's something that they're going to need to fix because that is definitely their weakness. I'm not going to compare that to Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma last year had the number 1 offense in the country, but they were still like 60-something in total defense. And, of course, they were 1 play away from going to the national title. So you can score a lot of points and still get where you need to go. But if Bama wants to be a surefire lock to win the national title, they're going to have to improve on defense. And I don't think that's any news to anybody. I mean, even Alabama fans will tell you that that's their weakness right now, and they need to fix that. Because they're going to run into a team eventually that can score. They haven't really played anybody. Well, we'll see this weekend. Missouri can score, but I still wouldn't put Missouri on the same level, talent-wise, as these other teams, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, right, or even West Virginia. So far, what do you think about our Carolina Panthers this season? I'm very, very happy with the Panthers. Very happy. We play in the toughest division in all of football in the NFC South, so it's going to be hard to win the division for the Panthers because the Saints are on fire. The only thing I would say, though, is that Carolina is a more complete team than New Orleans is. New Orleans has the best offense in the division by far. But Carolina's offense this year is probably the best offense they've had in the past 4 or 5 years. And our defense is still a top 10 defense in the NFL. So we're more well-rounded than the Saints are, which is good. Atlanta, great offense, terrible defense. I mean, awful defense. And then forget about Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's just no good. And so to answer your question, I feel great. I feel great about the Panthers this season. Nick Bro, I'll get into your thing in a second. Uncle Luke says, Kelly Bryant is visiting the University of North Carolina. I saw that. Well, this is probably the first of many visits he'll go on. I'd be very, very shocked to see him actually go there. I guess anything's possible. And like I said before, I think one big thing with Kelly is he wants to be closer to home. He's a South Carolina kid. I mean, obviously, the University of North Carolina is not very far from where he lives now. I still don't think that North Carolina is not a very good team. I'm sorry. You know that already, Uncle Luke. I'm not telling you something that you don't already know. And I don't know. I'd be surprised to see him go there. But he'll take several visits. He'll probably visit NC State. He'll probably visit a couple of SEC teams. I mean, he could visit anywhere between 8 and 10 schools before it's all over with, maybe more. So we'll see. I'm not surprised he's visiting them, but I don't give them a shot to actually land them. I'd be surprised. College Football Dojo. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. He says, I also see you're getting close to that 1,000 subs club. It'll be here soon. Yes, my goal is I set a goal of getting it by Monday, the 15th. That will be my 1-year anniversary on YouTube. So it only seemed right to try to hit that goal by Monday. I still think I can do it. I think this weekend I can pick up a good bit. But at the end of the day, it's a goal that I want to reach. But whether I reach it on Monday or a week, from Monday, it doesn't really matter. But we all have goals in life, and why not reach for the stars? But thank you, sir. Delta Charlie, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. UNC will not improve with adding Kelly Bryant. They might improve a little bit. But, yeah. DeGoat Watson, good afternoon. And I agree with DeGoat Watson. Kelly Bryant should go to the SEC. I agree 100%, sir. I agree. I think that Auburn's probably a good fit for him. They're trying to think of other teams in the SEC that need a quarterback, right? Joe Burrow's still got 1 more year left, so Joe Burrow's not going anywhere at LSU. What about the Ole Miss guy? Tamu. The flying Hawaiian, other than Tua. He's leaving after this year, isn't he? I guess that would be somewhere he could go. Now, I think next year they're still under a postseason ban. So I don't know how much that matters to him. Arkansas is a very popular one because of Chad Morris. I understand that. I mean, that is possible, I guess. But Arkansas is in a complete rebuild. I would be shocked if he went there for the same reason I'd be shocked if he went to North Carolina, just because the teams aren't very good. Now, Arkansas will definitely be better, a lot better next year than they are this year, just because of recruiting that Chad Morris is going to do. But still anywhere where I don't think they're going to be able to compete in the West or in the SEC as a whole. I think you need another few years for that. It's hard to get inside of Kelly Bryant's head. Does he want to go to a contending team, a team that has a shot even if it's an outside shot at making the playoff, or does he just want to go somewhere where he can be the guy without any competition? I don't know. Maybe both. Hot Cosby, good afternoon, sir. Clemson Carson says, do you think the playoff committee will give more credit to us or Notre Dame? That's a good question. So what you're saying is when the first playoff committee poll comes out here in a couple of weeks, assuming Clemson and Notre Dame are still both undefeated at that time, will they put Notre Dame ahead of Clemson? Is that what you're asking? Or are you asking if Clemson goes 13-0 and Notre Dame goes 12-0, which one would they pick if it came down to those two? That's two different scenarios now. So to answer your question, I think that come after week 8, when the first poll comes out, if both teams are undefeated, I would not be surprised to see them put Notre Dame ahead of Clemson. But the lack of a conference championship game for Notre Dame at the end of the year will definitely hurt them if they're fighting for the 4th spot. Now, they might not even be fighting for the 4th spot, right? We could have multiple teams with one or more losses in that scenario. Notre Dame could be up there at number 2 or 3 where they're not in jeopardy of having to play their way in. But if it came down to those two, if they're looking at an undefeated 13-0 ACC champ in Clemson and a Notre Dame 12-0, I think that they would put Clemson in. They will punish Notre Dame for not having a conference championship. That's just my opinion, and that's not just my opinion. They tell you that. They value conference championship games. That's almost like a bye week for Notre Dame by not having to play a game. And also, by the way, if Notre Dame was in the ACC, or even the Big Ten for that matter, that conference championship game is huge because, listen, that means that they would have to play a Clemson. Or they would have to play a Miami that week and beat a top 10 team to get in. Not playing that week and sitting on the couch, not helping them out. Not one bit. What's up, Tiger Nation? Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. Billy Dawson says Notre Dame because they can schedule whoever they want. Usually pick a conference champ over a non-though. Yeah. Mr. Catholic Church is in the house. He says teams that will get into the playoffs before Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas. I don't know what you're saying there. Hot Cosby says, I'd be surprised if any non-conference winners in this year's because of Notre Dame being in the mix. Now, we're still going off the premise that Notre Dame's going to be undefeated. Well, we're still going off the premise that Ohio State is going undefeated, which I do think Ohio State will go undefeated, by the way, just for the record there. I don't really see anybody on their schedule. I mean, I guess you could say it's possible that they could lose to Michigan. I bet, but I don't see that happening. I think Ohio State's going to most likely win out. I don't think Georgia's going to win out. I think they'll drop at least one, but they need to be careful about which one that is. They're skating on thin ice in the East, and certainly if they lose one game and then lose the SEC title game, they're out. I don't see anybody beating Alabama for the rest of the year. The only team I could see maybe giving them even a bit of a headache in the regular season would be LSU, and that's only because of LSU's defense. But yeah, so that would put Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson all undefeated, and I still think Notre Dame's going to lose a game. So we go through this every year. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios that could play out, right? I mean, right now, the only two-loss. Is there any two-loss teams in the top 10? No, there's not. Yeah. Blake Ellis, good afternoon. He said I'm hearing this a lot. But he's saying that Florida State will upset Notre Dame big time. like Miami last year. Yeah, so that is highly possible. Highly possible that Florida State could upset Notre Dame. I think it's also possible that they could lose to Syracuse. That might be it. Now they also play Northwestern, which Northwestern isn't a very good team, but they have talent. I mean, they're very streaky, and then of course Southern Cal they play as well. So one of those 4 teams I think will beat them. It's just a question of which one. Florida State is not very good, but there's one thing you got to understand. So who did you think was a better team? Did anybody think, including myself, that Miami even had a chance? I mean, Florida State even had a chance to hang with Miami this year, and they did. I mean, Florida State still has a top roster in the country talent-wise. That's what was left from Jimbo Fisher to Willie Taggart. Willie Taggart just hasn't been able to put it all together, but they have enough talent to beat Notre Dame. They do. They have enough talent to potentially beat Clemson. That game's in Tallahassee. And that game worries me a little bit. The only reason it worries me is because, again, Florida State is out of ACC play at this point. The only thing they're really playing for is to try to make a bowl game at this point. And they're playing for pride, and they have nothing to lose. So anytime you have a team that has everything to lose and a team that has nothing to lose, watch out. That's always considered to be a trap game. SEC Dog, good afternoon, sir. He says, "Hey Pete, if we UGA are going to drop one, I hope it's to LSU. Anyone that follows football understands what I'm saying." Yeah, I've said it 100 times, sir. I agree. Georgia can lose this weekend. It doesn't really affect their standings. Here's the only way it really could affect them. The only way it could possibly affect them is in the scenario that 2 SEC teams possibly get into the playoff, which I don't think is going to happen, but it is possible. It happened last year. So in other words, if let's say that Georgia goes to the SEC title game and loses to Alabama, there's their one loss. Now in that scenario, their only hope of getting into the playoff as the second SEC team that gets in the playoff would be as if they only have that one loss, and it's a close loss to Alabama in Atlanta. The scenario where they lose to LSU and then lose a close game to Alabama, they're not going. A non-conference 2-loss champ is not getting in. So that's the only way it could hurt them. But I do agree that losing to LSU this week does not mean Georgia's season's over. I mean, they can still win out, and they'll be fine. Yes, he does know what he's talking about, and I just told you why. I just told you why he's correct. And of course, if I'm correct, he's correct. Because I agree with him. Florida and Kentucky will lose more games. Yeah, I think so too. I agree with that. I don't really think it's at this point. There's much of a question of whether or not Georgia's going to win the East. It's just a matter of can they win the SEC, or backdoor, or get up some sort of backdoor bid into the playoff, even if losing the conference. What's up, Comic Dude 45? How you doing, sir? That's another X factor in all this. West Virginia has the ability to really shake up everything. West Virginia being undefeated, sitting at number 6 in the AP poll right now. But they still have to play everybody that means anything in the Big 12. They still have to play Oklahoma. They still have to play Texas. Right? So, yeah. The only scenario that would really leave somebody out that and cause a lot of mayhem and possibly lead to an expanded playoff is if we had, let's say, 4 undefeated teams, and then Notre Dame. I mean, there's only 4 spots in the playoffs, so let's say Alabama's undefeated, Ohio State's undefeated. Clemson's undefeated. West Virginia's undefeated. And Notre Dame's undefeated. That's 5 undefeated teams. Now, the likelihood of that happening is very, very slim. I mean, it's just probably less than 1% that that's going to happen. But if it did, in that scenario, which one would you leave out? I don't know. I don't know which one you'd leave out. I guess Notre Dame, since they don't have a conference championship game. West Virginia is the 2015 Baylor, says College Football Dojo. Yeah, SEC dog. That's basically what I just said. What about UCF? Any chance they make the playoffs? No, not a chance. It is what it is. Whether or not you believe that they belong there or not is completely irrelevant. I mean, I know there's people that believe that if UCF goes undefeated again, they deserve a shot in the playoff. They're not going to make it, though. The only way UCF makes the playoff is if you have, let's say, multiple 2-loss conference champions. Okay? So maybe... which isn't happening. I mean, you'd have to have like a 2-loss Clemson, right? A 2-loss Ohio State, and maybe a 2-loss Georgia that beats Alabama in the SEC championship game. I don't see a scenario where that's happening. They're not getting in. What's up, Jim Harbaugh, my favorite coach from the Big Ten? How you doing, sir? Hey, Jim Harbaugh, are you about ready to lose this week to Wisconsin? I picked Wisconsin to win that game this weekend, but there's a major injury to one of Wisconsin's key players. I'm trying to remember who it is now. But at the end of the day, Coach Harbaugh's in here. He'll tell you. He has a hard time beating top 15 teams. UCF can keep winning games all they want. They're not getting in the playoff. Just is what it is. Is Texas back? I think it's too early to say that. Now, I was impressed with Texas, but you do have to take into consideration the fact that they were playing one of the worst defenses in the country, Oklahoma's defense. I mean, Ellinger, that quarterback for Texas, he's looking like Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. I mean, all and Baker Mayfield all wrapped into one, wasn't he? He was just putting it all over them. I mean. So you got to sort of weigh it. You got to look at both sides of it. So yes, Texas played great. I think they're on their way to being back, as you put it. We'll find out here very soon. If Texas can beat West Virginia and then go and win the Big 12 championship game against either West Virginia or Oklahoma, that would convince me. I'm not quite convinced yet that Texas is back. And let's put it this way. If Texas wins out and somehow finds their way into the top 4, I don't think Texas is good enough to beat either Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, or even probably Notre Dame for that matter. So I don't think they're a national championship caliber team, but they're good. And if you're a Texas fan, that's not an insult. Look where you've been for the past decade, okay? So, if you're a Texas fan, don't get on here and cry to me about how I'm being biased and this and that. No, I have no feeling one way or another, emotional attachment to Texas. Well, I don't hate Texas, okay? Clemson has no affiliation with them or rivalry with them. I don't care. I could care less. I'm just telling you what I think. Yeah, they lost to Maryland. Yeah, they lost to Maryland. That's a bad look. I agree. That was the first game of the year, though. And listen, we saw the first couple of weeks of the season. Some teams. Listen, Penn State went to overtime with Appalachian State at home. Week 1. Now, what does that tell you? Everyone thinks that Notre Dame's win over Virginia Tech was some huge accomplishment. They shouldn't have been ranked. I don't think it was that great of a win either. I also don't think that Notre Dame's win over Stanford was very. Now they did beat them convincingly, but Stanford has been way overrated so far this year. We saw them almost lose. They were one play away from losing to San Diego State, the first game of the year. They got drubbed up and down the field by Oregon a few weeks after that. Somehow Oregon found a way to lose that game through some bad time management. And then, of course, Notre Dame beats the crap out of them. I don't think Stanford's very good. That's what I'm getting at. So I don't even consider Stanford. Stanford shouldn't even probably be in the top 25 right now. Bryce Love's injuries probably have some to do with that. But you can't. One player's injuries, you can't say, especially a running back position, should not control whether or not you're a good or a bad team. The GOAT Watson, can Penn State make the playoffs like Ohio State did in 2016? Oh, I doubt it. I guess it's possible. I highly doubt it. There would have to be a lot that have to happen for that. I don't think you're going to see two teams from one conference get in this year. So the answer would be no. Yeah, Stanford also lost to Utah. Right, exactly. Yeah, so great question. I'm not hearing anybody talk about this. The GOAT Watson, you get the Pigskin Pete comment of the day, sir. Just because it's something I wanted to talk about, and you actually reminded me of it. So he says if Oregon beats Washington, they should be considered for the playoff. They should beat Stanford. I still believe they lost that game. All right, so here's the scenario. Oregon is a one-loss team. Their only loss is a very, very close loss. Wasn't even an overtime loss, maybe, to Stanford. They play Washington, who's in their division, the Pac-12 North, this weekend. In the scenario that Oregon wins out, so Oregon, if they beat Washington this weekend, they will sit atop the Pac-12 North as a one-loss team. They win out. Let's say they win out and they win the Pac-12 championship. A 12-1 Oregon team, I think, has a case for the playoffs. Now, again, that would also depend. Now, everyone wants to compare whether or not Notre Dame or Clemson would get that fourth spot if they were both undefeated. I'd be willing to I think the more interesting question is comparing Notre Dame, an undefeated Notre Dame, to a 11-1 Oregon, who's a Pac-12 champion. What do you think about that? Who do you think they would pick in that scenario? What's up, Dondre Crawford? How you doing, sir? Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. That's another one. Yeah, so I asked anybody who's just getting on here, please hit the like and subscribe button. I did mention at the top of the stream here that I wanted to get some people's opinions. Since there's upsets every single week in college football now, I want you to pick one or two upset and post it in the chat. My upset is I'm picking Wisconsin over Michigan. Tiger Nation just posted in there. He wonders if Virginia can upset Miami. That's one that a lot of people are talking about. Virginia's actually pretty good. I haven't really talked a lot about Virginia this year, but they are surprisingly much better than they normally are. Could this be a trap game for Miami after an emotional, very close game against Florida State last week? Could be. Also, Miami is a completely different team on the road as they are at home. So, yeah, it is definitely possible. If you're Miami, you want to not overlook Virginia. It's possible. I still think Miami's going to win the game, but it's certainly be on upset alert. Notre Dame should be forced to join a conference. Well, they can't be forced, but you know what can happen? The NCAA can set rules. I mean, they have the authority to do this. I mean, I don't think they will because, I mean, what does the NCAA have to lose, right? They don't have anything to lose out of this. But it is completely possible and within their power that the NCAA could just make a rule for the playoff and say that only Power 5 teams can make the playoff. Now, that would eliminate Group of 5 teams, which they're not getting in anyway, even though they want to try to pretend like that it's possible for that. There's no Group of 5 team making the playoff. And unless there's some sort of scenario, like I said, where there's multiple 2-loss conference champions, which we haven't seen that yet in the playoff era. But that would more or less force Notre Dame to join a conference if they did that. They have the authority to do it, but they won't do that. 81 Clemson Tiger 16. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic. Otherwise, you would not be here. Pitt seems to upset a top team every year. Yeah, I just excuse me. I don't see it happening this year. I mean, anything's possible. Pitt's taking a step back this year from where they've been the past few years. Recovering from Michael, lost a car. You lost a car? What do you mean you lost a car? Hey, how do you lose a car, sir? Was your car destroyed? Is that what you're saying? Don't suck. When a tree fall on it? Must have been a tree or something, huh? I mean, I'm assuming the car didn't just start itself up and drive off. A tree limb, yeah. That sucks. You're right. Clemson Carson says Travis Etienne is way better than Benny Snell. He's so overrated. I don't know if you call Benny Snell. I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to say that he's overrated. But here's the difference. Benny Snell is the Kentucky offense. I mean, he is. I mean, without Benny Snell, Kentucky probably be a 7-5 team. So he means more to their team because he is the guy. Clemson's offense is loaded with weapons, so the ball gets much more spread around. He doesn't get as many touches as somebody like Benny Snell does. But who's better? I don't know. Obviously, I'm biased with being a Clemson guy, so you're asking the wrong person. But I don't think that Snell's overrated. I think he's good. What's up, Ryan Stanfield? How you doing, sir? How's that boy of yours? Doing good? I hope he is. What'd you say, sir? I'm watching Pete, just not in the comment section. Okay, yeah, so he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's at least he's watching the stream. He's just busy. He can't comment. ETN benefits from talent around him. Okay, so does Tua not benefit from the talent around him? I mean, that might be the dumbest thing I've heard all day, sir. Every player benefits from having other good players around them. It's a team sport. Of course. Of course he benefits from it. Everybody on Alabama's team benefits from the other players around them. Everybody on Clemson's team benefits from the other teams around them, players around them. You're a genius, sir. Yeah, that will be a great duo next year, ETN and Dixon. I'm looking forward to Dixon in the future. I think you'll see more of him this year as the season goes on. He came in so late that he really didn't get to a lot of time during the summer with these guys. And about Feaster, Feaster's what, a junior? I mean, Feaster can leave after this year if he wants. Hard to say whether or not he will. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, Billy Dawson. That's why it's so hard for a running back to get a Heisman these days because of the quarterback play. It's hard to compete with those type of numbers. All right, this is officially the dumbest comment of the day. So does anybody want to tell this guy? I mean, Catholic Church is right. Have you watched a Clemson football game, sir? I mean, if you're trolling, that's bad trolling. Let me read you what this guy just said. ETN isn't a physical running back. First of all, I don't know what you've been watching. That can consistently break tackles. Sir. That's actually what he's known for, is breaking tackles. He has okay speed. He's the fastest guy in the state of Louisiana. Okay speed. And he's just average. Oh, my Lord. I mean, basically, no, not basically. Every single statement that you made in that little post there was false. Every one of them. Tennessee over Auburn. Wouldn't that be funny? Would that not be funny? Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I hope Tennessee beats Auburn. I mean, I could care less. But I feel so sorry for Tennessee fans right now. My boy Catfish, BBD, some of you other guys, you other Tennessee fans here in the comment section. I mean, everybody knows I'm no Tennessee fan, but of course I'm no Auburn fan either, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I would love to see Tennessee beat Auburn this week. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's certainly not impossible. But Tennessee's coming off a bye, and there are some problems at Auburn right now, from what I hear, inside that locker room and between the coach and the coaching staff as well. But what's up, Ace Outlaw? Good afternoon, sir. How you doing? Oy vey. I don't even know why I entertain this guy, but I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, the more he types and the more he talks, the dumber he looks. So that's why I just continue to let him do it. He says, Pete, I know the truth hurts. Straight line speed, but watching him play, I don't see it. I don't know what you've been watching, sir. Lord. I mean, your hate for Clemson just it blinds, all common sense. It is what it is. I realize you hate Clemson, sir. That's apparent. What's up, Wrong on Purpose? The artist formerly known as Drake Luke. Did you hear my comments on Oregon just now, sir? I was sticking up for your Ducks, man. I said if they beat Washington this week and end up winning out and win the Pac-12 and go 11-1 with that fluky loss to Stanford that they should have won, they should seriously be considered for the playoff, I think. Now that's provided that all those things happen, that you went out. Not easy to do. If Auburn loses to Tennessee, their season is definitely over. Their season's already over. I mean, Auburn's season's over. They've already got 2 SEC losses. They're done. Stick a fork in them. Which is another reason why they could possibly lose to Tennessee. Because they know their season's over. Right? Am I right? There's not a scenario where Auburn can still, No, there's not. There's not even a scenario where Auburn can win the West, let alone the SEC. So they're definitely not making the playoff. They don't do either one of those things. Do I see LSU being the Auburn of last season? So let me see if I can wrap my head around what you're trying to say here. So what you're saying is that LSU is going to shake up the SEC and beat Alabama, right? And then who else would they have to beat? Maybe Georgia, right? Is that what you're saying? The answer to that is no. I don't see that happening. I think it's more likely, if anything, that LSU finds a way to upset one of those two teams, but not both of them. Probably not either one of them, but one of them at the most. Their defense is elite. They got both teams at home. Yeah, well, I agree their defense is great. Problem is their offense is not very good at all. I mean, their offense is barely better than it's been for the past decade, and that's not saying much. So, yeah, I don't see it. At least Auburn last year had a good offense when their running backs were, playing, not hurt. But LSU, you can't say the same thing for them. I don't see them keeping up scoring with Alabama. Let's put it that way. Imagine if Alabama gets up on LSU by 2 touchdowns. You think, is LSU built to come back from a 2 or 3 touchdown deficit? No, they can't score like that. The only way that I see it could possibly happen, I mean, you'd have to have a couple of defensive touchdowns, which is possible, but highly unlikely. I'm talking about a pick six and a fumble recovery for a touchdown, maybe a special teams touchdown to add into that. But that'd be, some kind of fluky situation. Comic Dude 45 says Bands loses to LSU. Bands loses to LSU. Who's Bands? Barnes? Huh? Who's Bands? Bama. Bama loses to LSU, backdoors into the playoffs again. You heard it here first, he says. Yeah, I doubt that. But you're right. If that happens, I'll remember that I heard it here first. Oh, Lord. I'm not going to even read what I just wrote. Or read what I just read. Yeah, so what time does that game come on? That's one I'm definitely going to have to DVR, is the Oregon and Washington game. That's one of the most underrated games of the week, for sure. And as far as this game tonight, well, there's two games tonight. There's an NFL game tonight, obviously the Thursday night game, Eagles and Giants. And there's also a college game tonight, which doesn't really mean a whole lot. It's TCU and Texas Tech. TCU's been rather disappointing. I picked TCU as the dark horse to win the Big 12 before the season started, and I still think TCU is a very talented team, but they're already sitting here with 2 losses. Obviously, they lost to Ohio State, and they also lost pretty badly to Texas. They got manhandled by Texas. So the game is not as good right now as it looked like it was going to be maybe even as short as a few weeks ago. But nonetheless, it's a big boy football game, which we have yet to see really one of those on a Thursday night so far this year. So I will definitely be keeping one eye on that. Does anybody think that Texas Tech has even a chance in hell to upset TCU tonight? I think they do. And the only reason I say that, well, one reason is I have one of their wide receivers on my fantasy team, so I hope he does well. But Texas Tech, they're another team that can put up 1,000,000 points but have no defense. A lot like they're Oklahoma light. They're a less talented version of Oklahoma. But on any given day, if they can outscore somebody, they can win. So some people agree with me. They think they have a chance, but they won't. Hope we continue blowing out teams the rest of the season, especially NC State. NC State worries me a little bit. I'm not like that worried about it. But again, anytime you're playing a team with a quarterback that's the caliber of Ryan Finley, then you better take him seriously. The fact that it's in Clemson and when we have a bye week to both prepare for him and to rest up is huge. Now they have a bye week too, so they get to do the same thing. But very hard to come into Death Valley and beat Clemson at home after Clemson's had a week to prepare for you, or 2 weeks. Big boy football. Gamecock fans know nothing about that. Sooner Ace, good afternoon, sir. Yeah, somebody at the Oklahoma facility, athletic director maybe even one of the coaches, obviously was watching the stream that I did during the Red River rivalry game. They watched it play back. And at the end of that stream, I said, it's time. It's time. Mike Stoops has to go. It was time 2 years ago. They didn't do it. They should have done it before this season. They didn't do it. They should have done it after that Rose Bowl game last year when Georgia, a team who nobody thought could keep up scoring with Oklahoma, scored 50-something points on them, and that was the reason they didn't make it into the national title game, yet they still gave this guy a raise going into this year. So, but somebody there was listening, and they did the right thing in firing him. Brody L., what game are you streaming on Saturday? I'll be streaming the Georgia and LSU game at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there or be square. Don't forget to tell your friends to come too. Tell your wives, your girlfriends. Tell them to tell their girlfriends. And even their boyfriends if they have them. And, yeah, make sure everybody knows. Tell your barber if you get a haircut between now and then. Everybody find an old laptop and towels for next Saturday. Well, we don't have to worry about that because Bradley Chubb is no longer there. So I think our towels are safe. Now, as far as the laptops go, that's a whole nother story. I noticed Pete doesn't stream Bama. I wonder why. I don't discriminate, sir. I'm sure I will end up streaming an Alabama game whenever they play somebody that's worth watching. How about that? The only game that I would have streamed so far that was good enough to stream for Alabama was the Texas A&M game, and that was on at the same time as the Clemson game. And I don't stream other games while my Tigers are playing. If your game is on at the same time as my Tigers, it's not happening. So that's the only reason I didn't do that one. Yeah, there's probably multiple Alabama games I'll end up doing before the season's over, provided they're not on the same time as Clemson. So when they play LSU, that will definitely be one I'll probably want to do, as long as it's at a different time than Clemson. Listen, sir, I've only done one Clemson game so far this year as far as streaming, and that was the Texas A&M one, which obviously was the game of the week that week. It was where game day was. I don't bow down to anybody, sir, so that's not happening. Who wins, Patriots or Chiefs? I can't wait for this one. To go, Watson, you must not have watched my picks, sir, on the Sports Fury. Are you not subscribed to the Sports Fury? Anybody who's a NFL fan? They also do NBA too, and some other stuff. They don't do college football, but they do tons of anything NFL. Anyway, they had me on the other day to do the Week 6 picks for all the NFL games, and it was an hour-long video they posted, So if you want to know who I think is going to win these games, you can go check that out. Yeah, I actually picked the Patriots to beat the Chiefs, believe it or not, in an upset. That's next Sunday night. This Sunday night coming up, Sunday night game. Yeah, the Sports Fury. Not the Sports Furry, the Sports Fury, but yeah. Yeah, Clemson Carson's a Patriots fan. Go figure that one out. I still like you, sir. A Clemson fan and a Patriots fan. They have 50,000 subscribers. They do. They just went over 50,000 the other day. You know what? So I grew up in the Charleston area in South Carolina. I've lived here my whole life, born here, raised here. I'm nearing 40 years old very rapidly, unfortunately. So growing up as a kid, I saw a lot of Falcons fans around here because the Panthers didn't become a franchise till 1995, which I became a fan of them immediately whenever they came to Carolina. But let's say even then, all right, so prior to 1995, there was no professional sports or professional NFL franchise in the Carolinas. So you saw a lot of Falcons fans. You saw a lot of Cowboys fans, right? A lot of Steelers fans because those were the two most popular teams pretty much in the NFL at that time. I never saw any Patriots fans growing up. The Patriots were terrible. I don't know a single friend. Back when you were a kid, anybody who's in their mid to late 30s can remember this. The starter jackets. Everybody had a starter jacket for their favorite team. I never saw a Patriots starter jacket in middle school or high school ever. But now, even here where I live, I mean, Patriots. There might be as many Patriot fans in my city as there are Panther fans. Where'd they all come from? I'm completely baffled by that. Are they all bandwagoners? I don't know. I'm not saying you are a bandwagon fan, sir. I mean, you've been one your whole life. I'm not. I'm sure you have been. I just find it odd that I never saw a single one of them, met a single one of them my entire childhood, but now they're everywhere. Don't pick on them like their colors. So like my dad, he doesn't have a favorite NFL team. He never did. He likes players, right? So obviously, since I was a kid, I ever since the Panthers became a team, I became a huge Panthers fan day one. But he never cared. Growing up, he never had a certain team. He just followed players. Like he loved Joe Montana. So when Joe Montana was playing, he I guess, I don't know if you call him a 49ers fan, but he was a Joe Montana fan. Well, he's a Tom Brady fan. He loves Tom Brady. So I don't know if you consider him to be a Patriots fan, but he's a Tom Brady fan. I don't work like that. You guys are picking on him for liking their colors. The big question is, what was the score the last time Notre Dame played Clemson or Alabama? I was at that Notre Dame game. I have a picture of it right over there. In the flooding rain. That came down to a 2-point conversion attempt for Notre Dame to tie the game, and we made a goal line stand to win the game as time expired. That was awesome. The refs screwed Notre Dame against Clemson. If I had $1 for every time I heard that Clemson only wins because of the refs, I mean, I could retire. Right. Gronk is your favorite player? Yeah, he's exciting. I mean, he's a dominant tight end. I'm not sure if he could spell his own last name though. The guy's not very smart. Arkansas's quarterback had 175 passing yards in the first half versus Alabama. Oof. That's not even a passing team, are they? Yeah, Alabama needs to do something about the defense. Billy Dawson, I know he's a reasonable Alabama guy. He agrees. Of course, this other guy on here, whose name will not be mentioned, he probably thinks that that doesn't matter, but it does. All right, guys. Well, it's been an hour. I gotta go. Unfortunately, I can't believe it's been an hour already. It doesn't feel like it. And plus, I feel terrible. I almost considered not coming on today because I just feel like crap. But anyway, I did. I appreciate everybody for stopping in. Anybody who hasn't seen my appearance on the Sports Fury from the other day, go subscribe to those guys, Josh and Sean. They're awesome. They'll also be streaming tonight for the Thursday night football game between the Eagles and the Giants. I picked the Giants to win, by the way. That's my upset of the week in the NFL. If I don't see you between now and then, I will be doing the live play-by-play and reaction video for Georgia and LSU, which I think is the best game of the week. You could make an argument for Washington and Oregon, too, another very important game. I know game days at Michigan. I don't consider that to be the best game of the week, though. But anyway, it is what it is. So everybody tell your friends about that. Make sure before you leave this stream today, hit the like button. Also share it on Twitter or Facebook. And I guess that's it. Thank you to all my moderators. Thank you to all the haters, even the Catholic Church is right guy. Thank you, sir, for stopping in and spewing all your bull crap. I appreciate that. Yeah. I guess that's it. Nothing more to be said. Yeah. So anyway, have a great day. Pigskin Pete, checking out.